So I have people that tell me, I'm a vegetarian, I'm a vegan, I'm a plant-based, almost like if it's religion. What's that about? And is it sustainable? The goal is to live better with age. What's the right diet? Holistic, but realistic diet. Let's go. Welcome to the Dr. Geo Podcast. I am your host, Dr. Geo, where it is my goal to help you with your urological function and live better with age. Today's topic is going to be more on the live better with age component of things. How to eat holistically, but realistically. I had a conversation with our teenage daughter. They're growing up and they're getting into all sorts of conversations, these girls. And they're starting to figure out and to learn how life works, when I'm talking to people, what do we say? What do we talk about? And I said, well, those are, good things to think about. But I tell you what not to talk about. You don't want to talk politics with people, right? It's not a good idea. It never goes well. But you just never know the political beliefs of others, and you still don't even know your own, right? Don't talk about religion. Religion, not a good thing, right? You have your beliefs on religion, and it may offend someone and so forth. And don't talk about diet. Diets, I've been doing diet work for 25 years, literally read every book for the last 25 years on it. Talk about, Fit for Life by the Diamond, Harvey Diamond, I believe was the name, and his wife at the time. Certainly the Atkins diet, zone diet, blood type diet, all sorts of, diet books, ketogenic diet, all sorts. And I've actually have done them all. I've done most diets. So about 25 years ago, I was a vegan, right? Because it's the right thing to do. You're nice and young, and it's not only the right thing to do for your health, but it's the right thing to do, for the planet. Vegan, raw foodist. I remember it was a raw foodist. So eating celery all day. Those were my snacks. Then I went on to the other end. I did more of a Atkins diet with I incorporated more meat and so forth. And I've read all the books, and it's amazing. I've been in discussion panels with other experts, diet experts. It's just amazing to me how people are so caught up in their diet as if it is religion or political party. And it's never healthy. I've been with people that are promoting many diets in the, backstage. And it turns out that either, they're not doing what they say they do, or they do, but they have other problems. They have, mental health problems that are not addressed. Probably, I don't know, can it be contributory that they have some nutrient deficiency because of this? It could be. They overdrink. Vegan, but man, they drink like fish. So how is that healthy? Isn't the goal to live longer and better with age? You want to prevent these diseases. What diseases? Cancer of all types, certainly prostate, but across the board. You want to prevent a heart attack and strokes, right? The top killers. You want to prevent Alzheimer's, and you want to function with optimal quality as you age. You want to be, I want to play basketball, a pickup game of basketball at 75. That's my goal. That doesn't have to be your goal, but that's my goal. So you have your own goals as to how you want to function as you get older. 5 years, I saw a patient yesterday, 75. He's doing really well, really well. This is a scenario where he initially had a very high PSA. He still does, but we know that he doesn't have cancer, and we were even able to avoid a biopsy in this case because all the data shows that a biopsy is not necessary. He does have a big prostate. He's 75, doing great. We're training for 80. Right? How do you want to feel and look at 80? Well, we're training for that now. Diet and nutrition has a big role to play in how we age, right? So yes, the better we eat, the better we live, the better we do, the healthier we are, right? But let's keep it within context. And this notion of, no, I'm a paleo guy, and that's it. It's like a tribe. So it's like tribal, or I'm a ketogenic, or I'm a plant-based. And these wars, I call it diet wars. To me, it's more like diet confusion because you're confused. You don't know what to do. One day you're doing one diet, the next day you're doing another, and then you have guilt because you're eating with guilt, and you're not sure, but it sounds good. And the last thing you read or last person you saw or heard from either a podcast, and you're confused. Or the last documentary you saw on Netflix back in the day, 25 years ago, maybe it's Die for New America. Meats are bad. Diet for New America. Robbins, right? Look how these animals are treated. And yes, they're mistreated. And I'm not undermining that. And, I'm not necessarily an animal rights person, but they are mistreated. And more importantly, how these animals are treated, you're eating much of their stress chemicals that are produced by these animals. So that's not a good thing. Then it was, forks over knife, game changer, showing how erections are better in these vegan guys, which is absolutely bogus, by the way. Promoting really some of these fake meats. So, by the way, as I go along with my hopefully not too much of a diatribe here, if you're going to eat meat, eat meat. If you're not, don't. But don't eat these fake meats that supposedly are meat replacements. They're not. They're not meat replacements. And actually, they're even more toxic oftentimes. Oh, but Dr. Geo, no. I'm doing it for environmental reasons. Really? Where are these meats made? These fake meats? China. So it's not helping the environment if they are brought over through, in planes. So this is part of the, people want to belong to something, and I get it, and that's fine. But, most importantly is what works for you to live longer and better with age. When I became a vegan raw foodist, and, I'm Cuban, so I remember going to my mom's house for the first time after becoming raw foodist vegan. And, I was like, well, Mom, I can't eat your food. I can't eat white rice. I only eat brown rice. No, I can't. That delicious Cuban pork you make. No way. I can't eat that. The yuca. Maybe I can eat the yuca, but don't add too much oil and don't. She almost threw the pan in my head. She was like, you know what? Get your vegan ass out of my face, right? And go find somewhere else to eat, right? My girlfriend at the time, who's my wife now, I don't know, I have no idea why she stood with me, but she did. And I couldn't eat anywhere with her, right? Can we go here? No, we can't. Is that a raw food place? I can't eat there. Is that a vegan? No, I can't eat there. So it became so impractical. Then I worked in a restaurant, an Italian restaurant. And again, I was vegan raw food working in this Italian restaurant. I didn't eat any of the food there, but I saw people that were healthy and how they ate. And you can see the behavior. Some of them were overweight, but some of them actually had a very healthy approach to eating anything. They ate less. They shared meals. I made note of that. I know for me, it increased my food addiction. And I remember when I first started working clinically as a naturopathic doctor, during the early years, I didn't do specifically urology and prostate like I do now in men's health. I did more, weight loss, helped women too, et cetera. And I remember me triggering all sorts of eating disorders in women because I said, oh, eat like this, don't eat that. I triggered bulimia or anorexia. Inadvertently, of course. Wow, I learned. I was like, what am I doing? Fast forward, I've read all the books, all the research to have an idea of how you should eat to help yourself, certainly with prostate cancer and prostate health, but how to live better with age. All right. So that's what we're talking about today. And I'm going to give you, some very nice, easy to understand tips, right? We're not going to get right down to a whole lot of scientific jargon. The number one problem, in my opinion, seems to be that we're overeating. If you look hard enough on the internet, you're going to find things to support your, right? That's how the internet works. There's algorithms. So if you put, meats are bad for you, you're going to get tons of clicks for that. Carbs are bad. You're going to get that. Fats are bad. It turns out that all these macronutrients are actually important for your health and well-being and for you to live longer and better. The problem is not these macronutrients, proteins, carbs, and fats. The problem is that you're just overeating. You're eating too much. I am going to talk about a pretty good study how studies work. First of all, when you see headlines in studies that this is the diet and that's the diet, you got to understand the news media is not really looking into this closely. So they want sound bites to attract your attention. So you don't want to get diet information from news media first and foremost, right? It's not the right thing to do. Secondly, it's very difficult to study diet and nutrition because there's a lot of variables involved. They're asking people questionnaires maybe every 3 to 6 months. Do you remember what you ate yesterday? What did you have for lunch yesterday? It's hard, isn't it? You may, oh yeah, well, I think I ate a burger. No, wait, that was for dinner. Wait, yesterday. Now, you're answering questionnaires of what you ate within the last 3 months. That's how they do these diet studies. Very difficult. I still find some value in them because they're looking at, the good studies are looking at a large number of people. So the sample size is high in a tens of thousands. So there is some value there, but to take it for face value, just not. So it's very difficult to do diet research. Okay. You can't randomize it. Actually, for diet research, including alcohol and things like that, animal studies work pretty well because you can control it, right? You can control what the animal eats. They did a 25-year study, long study, in two separate places. One was in Wisconsin. The other one was in the NIH in Maryland. And they took like about, a lot of monkeys, and they put one set of monkeys in a sort of a calorie restriction diet and the other set of monkeys into a standard American diet, quote unquote. Both places. They didn't have the same exact methodology. So one group, might have been the Wisconsin group, I may be screwing that up, had them in a very typical standard American diet, like 30 grams of sugar a day, I think, and so forth, like standard American diet. So the control group. The one in Maryland, NIH, those that were the control group there, their standard American diet, in air quotes, was actually not that bad. It was like 4 grams of sugar. The control group could eat whatever they want on both sides. Then the experimental group did a calorie restriction diet. So what was the outcome of this 25-year study? This will never happen again, by the way. There will never be a 20-year or any study on monkeys ever again because of many reasons, animal rights reasons and so forth. So this type of study will never happen again. What was the outcome of these studies? The outcome of these studies were that, yes, indeed, calorie restriction helped with longevity and health as these monkeys aged. Why study monkeys? Because they're biologically very similar to us. Those that ate less did better. Better how? Live longer, look better, look younger. Interestingly, the when you compare the experimental group with the control group in Maryland, again, that group, the control group, their sugar intake was less and so forth, but they can eat whatever they want. There wasn't a big difference in longevity and how they looked. There was a minor difference. So the calorie restriction looked better and still. Why is that? Because those that in the control group who ate, the monkeys that ate whatever they wanted, had a low sugar intake. So yeah, A, eat less. B, yeah, sugar is a beast. Sugar is addictive. Probably if sugar was a new thing now that we didn't have before, and it's a new thing brought to the market, it'd probably be illegal because it is addictive. It is super refined, and it does cause a metabolic effect that's not good for you and interferes with the goal of living longer and better with age. Okay. So A, what do? Eat less. I know it's hard. I love food too. The guy that played Iron Man, he was into drugs, right? He had a drug problem. I said, why you keep taking these drugs? He's like, what do you mean why I keep taking these drugs? Because it feels good. Let's not overcomplicate it. Eating a lot and eating feels good. Okay. That's okay. All right. We'll learn how to work with this, but that's the reality. The more sugar you eat and simple carbohydrates, the more you want to eat. The name of the game is primarily eat less calories. Less calories, particularly as you get older, you live longer and better. Do I like intermittent fasting and time restriction eating? Actually, those are two separate things. Intermittent fasting really means fasting for several days. I know these terms are used interchangeably, time restricted eating and intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting means you fast for 1 or 2 days or 3 days or a week or something. And that's a fasting method. Time restricted eating is that you eat every day within a certain time range, right? 6, 8 hours, right? So I like time restricted eating quite a bit. Why? It does reduce the calorie count, and you can only eat but so many calories within 8 hours. I mean, I know some of you say, no, I could eat. I'm an eater. You can only eat so many calories within 6 hours. So you have that time of 16 hours or so, 14, 16 hours of not eating. There's benefits there. Biological benefits, autophagy where all the bad cells kind of die off. You want that. Metabolic responses that are favorable, things like less what's called insulin resistance, right? You don't want insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is where the receptors of insulin they don't connect well with the insulin, right? And then you cannot metabolize sugar. One of the biggest contributors to aging unsuccessfully and dying prematurely is too much insulin and insulin resistance. So we want to pay attention to that. Intermittent or time-restricted eating, helps with that, improves that. And it's more doable, I think. And I know some of you, I just came from a talk. I just gave a talk recently, and one of the panelists said, "Look, I'm not into intermittent fasting. It's not, despite the research, I'm not into it." Well, it's just a personal opinion thing, because the research shows that it's helpful. And yeah, it's hard. And look, some people, typically intermittent fasting means you have to skip, or time restricted eating means you have to skip a meal. That could be either breakfast or dinner. You have to figure out what works best for you. I like dinner. I'm a family man. I want to go home and have dinner with my family as often as possible. Holistic, but realistic. So when we're not, rats that are studied, we're people. And so other variables, how we live our life, matters with what dietary habits we, do or don't do. So it has to be within context of what's important to you in your life. Food brings people together. I think that blue zone areas, those are 5 areas around the world that people live a long time. A lot of that has to do with community, not just diet. The fact that there's community and food brings people together. So I think that time-restricted eating helps with that more, right? It's healthier. You do tend to eat less, and then so you don't have to be so dogmatic with it. Of course, there's things. Of course, you should limit simple carbohydrates and breads and so. By the way, this is 80-20 rule, because for the 20% of the people, it's not that bad, but for 80% it is. So we're going to focus on 80%. I know I do horrible when I have bagels. I do horrible. Right? I crash, and it's not a good thing. I know I do horrible with sugar. Most people do. So I would say time-restricted eating, and you can figure out whether some people say, well, I need breakfast. I cannot function without breakfast. No problem. Then find a window that you don't eat as much. That works for you. Time-restricted eating, limit and be conscious with simple carbohydrates and sugar. I am not going to say in this podcast episode or ever, don't eat meat, don't eat that, because the don't do works worse. And psychologically, as humans, we typically want more of what we can't have. 8 years ago, my son was 2 years old. He always wants to play with my cell phone. So I did an experiment to prove this point. I have my cell phone on one side of the table, and his absolute favorite toy, I think it was a Pokemon or something, I can't remember, was on the other side of the table. And I just wanted to see, he's 2 years old. I wanted to see what he grabs first, my cell phone or his favorite toy. First time, cell phone. I said, oh, wow, that's interesting. Take the cell phone away, put it back. Try it again. Cell phone. Second, third, fourth time. He wants my cell phone. Human nature. You want what you, if I keep saying, no, you can't. Hey, stop, get off my cell. Don't use my cell phone. He wants more of that. Same thing with you. So if you're constantly telling yourself, I can't have chocolate chip cookies. Oh my God, the chocolate chip cookies are there. Oh my God, the soft ones. Oh, they're warm. I can't have them. That's going to perpetuate the problem. You're going to want more of those chocolate chip cookies. So I'm not ever going to tell a patient or anyone, don't eat this, only eat that. Because A, I have no evidence that if you do that you're going to live longer and better. And B, it's not sustainable. However, you do want to be cognizant of the fact that time-restricted you're eating too much, likely. We are eating too much. That is the number one problem, in my opinion, as opposed to eat this and not that. Eating too much. And yeah, simple carbohydrates and sugars are a problem. Third thing, it's about being mindful when you eat. Mindfulness. Again, I still haven't told you, don't eat this, eat that. I'm not going there, actually. Be mindful. Most people have a good idea of what to eat and not to eat. I don't think I could share with you anything different than what you've heard already. I just want to make it practical for you. So if you are going to have those warm chocolate chip cookies, then have one. And mindfully say, look, I'm going to have this, guilt-free. Enjoy it. Your favorite thing, one. So the foods that are on the avoid list, and so far in my opinion here, is mostly simple carbohydrates and sugar. Then those food you want to have infrequently, mindfully, infrequently, and have a less portion or smaller portion and enjoy it. Because the other rule is don't ever eat anything with guilt. Guilt is way more indigestible than any food. Don't ever eat anything with guilt. Enjoy it, but do it mindfully. One of the worst things is when, watching a game on TV and you just get the bag of chips, right? You don't pour a couple of chips in a bowl. You get the bag of chips. And mindlessly, you just keep going, right? Right? Eating away, crunch, 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 eating away. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. You don't want to eat mindlessly. Eat mindfully. Again, we're being holistic but realistic here. You're going to the party. You got invited to this party. There's going to be all kinds of food there. And you're saying, I'm not going to eat anything because I'm going to Larry's party. And I'm going to save my appetite for Larry's party. Don't save your appetite for Larry's party or any event. Eat a good meal, a solid, clean, good meal before the party so that you are more in control when you get to the party. So then you can have whatever you want mindfully, but you won't eat that much because you're satiated. You're satisfied. You ate a good meal before you went there, and you won't drink as much because too much of alcohol and food and less food that is high in carbs and just not good food for you is the problem. Don't save your appetite before the party. Eat before the party. I typically make myself a smoothie before a party, a nice smoothie with berries and protein powder, and I add some greens to it. And before any event, I don't go in hungry. All right, so that is another tip for you. Lastly, try to eat. So with regards to food and diet, there seems to be a circadian aspect to it, meaning what? Meaning, there are times to eat that are better for you and times to eat that are not so great for you. And typically, not the studies show it and prove it. Plus, you've experienced it. If you're having big meals late at night, that's just going to interfere with your sleep. And sometimes you're waking up with a hangover and you didn't even drink alcohol. The hangover is a food hangover. You have the headache right behind your eyes. That's like, man, I didn't drink well, you didn't drink, but you ate like a pig. So you want to have your meals as early as possible. 2 to 3 hours before going to sleep is good. And yep, I know about that nighttime snacking. I know it. The pantry, the crunch, little cheese at night. You want to minimize that. You don't have to be dogmatic about it. You want to minimize it, So be mindful. Again, going back to mindfulness. Be mindful about it. You know what? I had too many crackers last night. I'm not going to have any tonight. Right? Mindful and disciplined. So when you eat matters. Don't eat too close to bedtime. And your first meal, breakfast means breaking the fast. So it doesn't mean that you need to eat breakfast at 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. Right? If you're doing time restricted eating and you're going to eat your first meal at noon, that is your breakfast. That should be primarily protein. I don't care what it is. Dr. Geo, plant-based, no meat. All right. So then eat plant-based protein. Right? What I feed my son for breakfast before he goes to school is grass-fed hot dogs and blueberries. That's all he eats. But that first meal, you want it to be, because you don't want to crash, right? That cereal and bagel and thing, you're going to crash. You're not going to be your best self, and it's going to not help you with this journey, this goal of how do I live better? Man, I'm turning 50. Actually, it's a real story. I am turning 50. How do I live better at 50 than I did at 40? Right? So you want to eat protein for first meal. Make it protein. Most days. Okay? Most days. All right? Holistic but realistic diet. This is what it is, right? How does it apply? Oh, the study says. The study has to be part of how we live. Right? We're not animals in a cage. Right? There's a lot of variables with how we live. There's emotion with food. There is cues that tell us, oh, I want that cookie or I want that pizza. Right? So this is real. And this, like this, you will be able to be dietarily eat successfully, eat clean food, and and keep your weight down and keep healthy, and lower your risk of dying young prematurely. What's young? I don't know. Anything less than 100 for me is young. And developing these horrific diseases like cancer and heart disease, strokes, and things like that, diabetes. This should work for you. drgeo.com. I write a lot about diet there. Go see me there. Join the tribe, if you will. Join the newsletter. And you're going to get several emails from me on all kinds of tips like this. I hope to see you there, and I will see you next time. This is Dr. Geo signing off. I'll talk to you next time.